Hey, how you doing? Thanks for downloading the show. Welcome to Garden Fork Radio. It's eclectic DIY with me, Eric, your host, and some of my friends. Today, we have one of my longest friends from living up in the middle of the woods there. His name is Bill. He taught me how to tap trees and boil down sap to make maple syrup. He's the reason that all the Garden Fork maple syrup videos are still being made, actually. I got to tap my tree soon. But I asked Bill if he would be on the show, and I called he still has a landline, so I called his landline, and I actually used my Apple iPhone to record this. When you're talking on the iPhone and if you look at the screen, I don't know if it's called the screen, and it shows that you have your choice of putting it on speaker and who you're talking to and how many minutes you have. In the upper left corner, it looks like a little sound wave with a little round dot in gray. If you press that, it will start recording the phone call. And it makes an announcement because both people need to know it's being recorded. And every 3 or 4 minutes, it makes this little sound. It goes beep, boop, and it reminds both parties that the recording is being recorded. But it makes it great to make a podcast and you have a guest on the show and they don't know how to use Zoom or don't want to use a computer. So just use your phone and just record it. Then, but you can look up how to export that, but it saves it into the notes. And then from there, you can share it by AirDrop into your computer. It puts it into the notes program in your editing computer, and then you can export it from there. Double click on it. It opens up as a QuickTime file and drag it to wherever you want. There you go. Anyway, long story short, but Bill's going to talk about different roads in our town, and he lives on a farm. His sap house is about 50 feet up a hill because they used to tap all the maples up in the sugar bush up behind him, and he likes to tap trees along the road because it's a lot easier, which it really is. So the sap house is not moved, so most of the sap comes through the driveway, and then he has to get it up the hill, which is a cow pasture, and in early spring, late winter, that can be mud. So when we start talking about getting it up the hill, that's what he's talking about. And yeah, so let's go. It's nonstop, Bill. I got a couple questions in, but he has so much information. It is amazing. All right, here we go.
We finally got a January, which we haven't had a January like this probably, I don't know, I haven't looked it up, but I would say at least 5 years. I've been in the single digits a lot, in the teens a lot, every morning, and cold overnight, wind blowing, trees are frozen. Wish we had a little bit more of a snow cover. There is frost in the ground, obviously.
Yeah, because the previous 5 years were so freaking warm. The sap ran really early.
It was so unpredictable. In fact, it was probably 5 years ago now. Todd has a better memory than me about it. Of course, he's got a lot of information in his phone that he can look at quick.
Yeah.
But we missed it because in Colebrook we said there's no way you should be tapping trees before Valentine's Day in Colebrook.
Yeah.
And you look at the long-range weather forecasts, and they can be, like you say, 10 degrees off.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any difference how warm it gets. If the trees have been frozen for weeks on end, one day isn't going to do it. One day isn't going to do it. But so we will see. Last year and the year before, we tapped the first weekend in February, which was around the 5th and the 6th and the 7th. And we like to do it because we got helpers, and Todd, of course, working for the state. They have the day off when it's President's Day or Lincoln's birthday, which comes first.
Yeah.
So we said, well, we're going to do it then. And when we did that, we made out. But then the weather got warmer, so we wound up doing it a week ahead of time. We said, and like I've always said, if you have, of course, we're on buckets, which is the same thing for somebody with tubing. If you have your trees tapped and all ready to go, and the weather breaks, you're all ready.
You're ahead of the game.
If the weather breaks and you say, okay, we got to gather up some help and take, 2 days to set everything up, you'll miss it. You're able to miss a good early run. So last year we made out, 2 years in a row we made out doing it on the first week of February. This year, the first week of February, you're staring us right in the face, and everything is frozen. I mean, yesterday they said I had to go to doctor's appointment yesterday all the way to New Haven. So from the top of Connecticut to the bottom of Connecticut, it was 44 degrees in New Haven at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When I got home an hour and a half later, everything here was frozen. The sidewalk was glare ice and it was snowing.
Yeah.
So it depends. There's a lot of people trying to get ready, only as close as in East Canaan. Those guys for the last 4 years, they've been tapping their trees in January. When they tap the trees in January, to me, it's too early because when I'm on buckets and my holes, the holes when you drill a hole in a tree that's not on tubing, it gets exposed to that warm air and it can dry up.
Yeah.
So the holes will dry over.
I thought I'd sent you a link maybe, or to Todd, but the University of Vermont did a bunch of testing and they proved that tapping early, if you're going to use tubing, the hole doesn't heal up. But definitely when you've got the spouts, they heal up right quick if it's warm.
Right. Because the air can get to them.
Yeah.
It's amazing, different trees. I found over the years different trees in different areas.
Oh, it's huge.
I've been doing this for, I guess, it's 50 years.
Oh, wow.
So a tree that's usually growing at the bottom of a side hill or the bottom of a bank is good, close to a brook or a stream. Also, old maple trees that you see, you can walk up to a maple tree and the big heavy-duty roots are sticking out of the ground at the base of the tree.
Yeah.
That's something, too, to watch for if you can.
That's what I have along my wall there, along the road.
Yeah, exactly.
I lost 2 of those, though. I'm bummed out.
Roadside trees, I was told by an old-timer, roadside trees are the thing to look for. They are usually exposed to the sunlight. They're able to get a big crown on the top.
And they're easy to get to.
The more branches you have in the sky, the more roots you have in the ground.
Yeah.
The trees that I tapped up here, my terrain, the trees that I tapped up here on the hillside, on the mountain behind the sap house, they're all trees that are growing in the forest.
Yeah.
So they're very tall, long trees like a telephone pole and only have a small amount of branches at the top in comparison to the ones like that I tap, on your road as well, Chantry, but the ones on Sugar Hill.
Yeah, that's
going to Colebrook Center. They're big, beautiful trees. They're growing along the side of the road. They're growing along the stone wall. They have big, beautiful tops on them.
Yeah, they're beautiful trees. I thought that my 2 that the town took down were going to be hollow, and they were rock solid. They were like 2.5 feet in diameter.
Yeah. The guy that lived across the street from me, Parks, that he was a nurseryman, and the tree, you don't remember this, but when I first moved here, there was a tree right at the end of my driveway where the small one is planted now.
Yeah.
Actually, it was a little closer to the road. It wasn't very far from my mailbox. And it died from the top down. All the branches on the top of the tree were all dead and they were falling off the tree, but the base of the tree and the branches closer to the ground were good. And he called that maple wilt.
Huh.
He said, it's too bad that tree's got maple wilt. Now, I don't know if that was a nickname that he called it, and I said, what's the difference? He said, well, do you notice? He said, like a flower, it's wilting from the top. The top of the tree is dying and the bottom is not.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll see roadside trees. I think I experienced that with 2 or 3 that I used to tap on Eno Hill. I think the salt killed them because they were growing close to the ditch, and the salt from the road would run down the ditch, and the maple roots were probably right there, at the edge of the road.
Yeah.
For that water that was seeping into the ground from the ditch. I don't know that for a fact, but it's just, from observation when I always try to pay attention. Winter, summer, spring, or fall.
Yeah,
always
because
try to watch the trees that I drive by in the summertime, how good the tops are, how deep colored green they are. Of course, that's got a lot to do with the rain. That's one of the things I'm worried about this year because we had such a drought. Summer was so dry, so dry. The fall was so dry when we had the forest fire danger, and we had, the big fire here in Connecticut, which was in Middletown area.
I remember that. Yeah,
That burned for weeks because we didn't have any water in the ground, and we didn't get any rain, and it was so dry. So I don't know what that drought is going to do. Some people say that the sap season has nothing to do with the summertime just before you tap. It's 1 year past.
Huh.
So, for instance, now we're 2025. So the drought we had was in 2024 before the calendar flipped in January.
Yeah.
They say, no, you got to go by 2023. Well, 2023 was okay, but it wasn't spectacular, and I can remember that from our hay season.
Yeah.
We did not get a second cut in the hay because in the middle of the summer we didn't get the rainfall.
I remember that. Yeah.
We didn't get a second cutting at all because the grass. Once we mowed the grass early, it didn't grow after we mowed it because it just was so dry. So, like I told you in the past, everybody in the past, well, what do you think about your maple sap season? I said, well, call me at April 4th, and I'll let you know how it was. Because it's all about the weather. It's all about, and not only the weather that you're having when you got your trees tapped, it's the weather that you had beforehand.
I'm curious because I'm going to tap the maples behind my house.
Yeah.
All in the woods there. And, I got that spring back there. And even through the drought, that spring did not stop. So I'm wondering if those trees might be better this time.
Could be. And it's something, to keep track of in your memory or write it down. If some people say, how do you remember that? I say, I don't know. I just remember.
Yeah, you're better at that than I am.
I don't remember from 1 year to the next. I said, well, then you have to make a diary or make a booklet or put it on a calendar and save the count. This is my maple calendar, so to speak. And that's what you write stuff down.
Yeah, because I haven't tapped those in a long time.
When you come to the sap house this year, and if you don't come, I guess I'll just have to drive down to Brooklyn and kidnap your ass. So you said 2 years. Well, 2 years ago, I think you were sick.
Yeah.
2 years ago, you were sick and you couldn't come around. You couldn't do anything. But and then you were in the process of selling your property, and there was a lot of stuff going on. But the point I'm trying to make is, I have like a diary, beginning and end diary, written on the wall. You probably might remember it. And I write down on the wall of fame.
Yeah, in the sap house. Yeah.
When we tap the trees, the day we tap the trees, the date we made the first boil, and the last boil of the year, and how many gallons we made. And some years we make our first straw maple syrup, make the first boil till the 9th of March.
Oh, wow.
And if I'm not mistaken, last year on the 9th of March, we already made 2 gallons. On the 9th of February, we already made 2 gallons.
Yes, I remember
30
that.
days ahead of time. But I'm talking in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah, when it got cold.
Which when we had the old-fashioned normal winter. A couple times I would have 20 below. I think the coldest I had this year was 16 below zero here. I had a lot 11 below, 6 below, 5 below, 4 below, days on it. And then, in the past 3 or 4 years, I don't remember it being that it wasn't a day where it didn't get above freezing.
Am I warmer up on the hill?
Always be above freezing. This year, few days, not last week, I don't think it was, probably 2 weeks ago, the warmest it got here was 26 degrees.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I got my oil bill the other day.
Yeah. Yeah. If you kept your records, if you look by the oil bill that you had this year compared to the last 3 Januaries in a row,
Yeah.
or even December, we had a cold December here too. Dry. We only had one. I think you got it. I think they got that one in New York City too. The first snowfall we had here was only 4 inches. They predicted 8. I only got 4. Todd probably had a little bit more up on the hill.
Yeah.
And elevation. Well, an inch here, an inch there. We haven't had a snowstorm. Not last year, but the year before, we got saved. Our sap season got saved we had 10 inches. And I could look it up, but I think it was like the first week of March. We had 10 inches of snow here in Colebrook.
I remember that, yeah.
We had nothing on the ground there. It was cold, it was ice on the pond and stuff. But that saved us because, like I always told you, if you have a blanket of snow on the ground, it doesn't take long after the sun goes down for it to drop below freezing.
Right. So you want cold nights and warm days for it to pump.
Yep, absolutely. Cold nights and warm days. I always tell Todd to tell his buddy Haney, okay, we want 25 and 45.
Yeah.
25 at night, 45 in the daytime. We don't want 7 at night and 42 in the daytime. How about the 25 and 45? 25 and 45. Because if it gets to be 17 degrees overnight, and it's 17 degrees overnight, it takes a long time for the trees to warm up and everything to warm up from 17 until, say, 40 or 42.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's 25 or 28 degrees, and it's only got to get to 40, it makes a lot of difference. It takes so much longer. And it's not like in the middle of July when you have, what do we have in July? 14 hours of daylight?
Yeah.
Sun's gone down at 6 o'clock here.
Microphone check. Hey, real quick, we all know that Eric has an Amazon store on Amazon. If you want to start your shopping there by going to our landing page, they call it storefront they call it, amazon.com/shop/gardenfork. Check out the tools I suggest, generators, winter must-have stuff. Also, anything you buy there, we get an affiliate link for a finder's fee, plus also anything else you purchase that day on Amazon, starting from our page and going wherever in Amazon, we get a little finder's fee for that too. Helps pay the bills. Super appreciate it. Make sure to shop local. Go to your local hardware store, okay? But if you're going to Amazon, maybe try and use our link. That'd be great. Thanks. If I remember right, my sap runs later than yours. Is that right?
Yes. Oh, at least by a week. If I was tapping my trees, you're at least a week's difference.
Well,
people don't believe it. They say, how far away is that? I said, well, it's probably by the way the crow flies. It's probably only 5 miles. Maybe not even.
Yeah, but it's 500 feet, isn't it?
But yes, that's correct. It's 500 feet. It's just different. And if you go to the west, if you go, and I do it all the time, and so does Hal. When you go to Norfolk, you're in Norfolk, and you're in the icebox. As soon as you get around that curve and you start heading along that flat land,
yeah,
heading toward East Canaan, it's like you went through a barrier. There's no snow on the ground. The temperature's warmer. The grass is getting green. And when you go the other way and get down over the hill, past Pond Hill and down in the back road by the Coon Club, you're back into no man's land.
I wonder Canaan is so much warmer because it's in the flatland. It's in the valley,
Well, it's in the valley. It's in the flatland. It's wide open. And the other thing, some mountain ranges run east and west. Other ones run north and south. So their valley, when the sun comes up in the east, is shining right down the valley.
Yeah.
When the sun comes up here in the east at my house, I got to get over this little hill, Latino Hill, and the other mountains that are over there in Barkhampton.
Yeah.
So that might make a difference too.
That might.
Well, here, you've been here at 2:30 in the afternoon in December, Christmas time, 2:30 in the afternoon, the sun's gone here.
Yes.
The sun's gone in my driveway. It's gone down behind this side hill.
Yeah, because the sun sets behind your house, so.
Yep. Well, in the winter, it's like more or less almost over the top of the swimming pool. When you come up in the driveway, it's way to the south.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's laying low anyway.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway, time will tell.
So I'm going to bring.
I'm not too nervous about having to be ready in a week from now with all this cold weather we've had.
Yeah.
One of the things you got to watch for, which will it'll start you off in the early part, but it'll also shut you off and kill you at the end, is a warm, foggy couple of days where they say it's going to rain. Now tomorrow they say here it's going to rain, but they said freezing rain. It's not like it's going to be in the 40s for 2 days in rain. But if you have that this time of year, that will thaw the trees out.
Yeah.
Yeah. A rainy, foggy night when the trees are wet from the warm rain will thaw the trees out a lot quicker than just warm air.
Oh, that makes sense, actually.
Well, it makes sense too. If you're stupid and you forget to take the turkey out of the freezer for Thanksgiving, they tell you to put it in a basin of sink and put it in cold water.
Yeah.
If you leave it on the kitchen counter, that thing will be frozen, 3 days from now.
Yeah.
So when you get that rain soaking on the trees, plus if it's raining, the air is warm. Well, by the same token, they're talking freezing rain. So up on Chantry Road, I'm pretty sure there's going to be them sparkly things on the tree branches called ice. And that's not thawing anything out,
No.
That's what killed me last year. The sugar content was acceptable. 2 years ago, it was really good. I made 41 gallons 2 years ago, and last year, so that would be 23. In 24, I made 27 gallons. Or was it 23? I forget. I think it was 23. So from 41 to 23 gallons.
Wow.
The sugar content was acceptable. It wasn't as good as the year before, but we had 3 days where it rained. It was warm the day before. The sap ran, and it didn't really it got cold at night, and, up by Todd's house, it got to be 32. Down here, it got to be 28 or 27. So it didn't really get that cold on every tree that we had tapped. And then we had 3 days of warm rain, foggy, gray weather. And at that point in time, the trees already had been running for a while. The sugar content was getting less, and then the trees just, broke. I said, okay, that's it.
They were done.
Start to grow now. And the sugar content goes away. Sap gets cloudy.
All right, so my plan is I'm going to tap my trees and I'm going to bring my sap down to you, and then I'll boil with you.
Yep. Last couple of years, I don't know. Last year I had trouble with mud.
Yeah. I remember that.
Not too bad. Most of the time I can drive up the hill now to get to the sap house. We used the pump 2 times. Not so much because we had too much snow that I couldn't drive up there in the snow. It just it was too, it was no frost to the ground. So underneath is sloppy mud under there.
Right. So you couldn't drive the sap up to the sap house.
Right. So we have to pump it. But one way or the other, we'll get it up there. If you bring it, we'll get it up there. Have to tank it in your driveway.
Well, I got one of those white food grade tanks from Tractor Supply. Yep. It's a 65 gallon.
Yep.
And I'm going to put that in the back of the Subaru, and I'll just drive over.
Yep.
Because I can't get the quad down there. There's too many busy roads.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. It'll take forever.
Yeah, it gets cold.
Yeah, it'll take forever. Yeah.
Well, that'll be fun. We'll have to make a new video, too, because I think the last time we made a video was like 18 years ago or something.
I was going to say, the last video you made, it's here somewhere in the box. I still have it. My father-in-law was still alive.
That's right. Yes, he was.
Big George was sitting on the bench.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
He's in the video.
Yeah, he's in the video. Yeah.
All right.
So we don't do anything different. We have a little bit different style of firewood now. I always used to rely on, scrap lumber that I used to bring home from work rather than throw it in a dumpster, and slabs from the sawmill.
Yeah.
And now I do a combination of slabs from the sawmill and also pine and hemlock trees.
Oh, sweet. I'm looking forward to this. This will be fun. You and me and Hal.
Trying to get some younger helpers, but grandchildren are getting older now. Yep. And we got to get younger people interested. I got two more years to go to hit the 100 mark. We making maple syrup at this farm for 100 years that I know of. Probably before that, but for 100 years, on that hill up there where I boil my sap for 100 years.
That's cool.
Donnie's grandfather came here in 1926. Now, whether he made maple syrup that year in 1926, and when it changed over, it would be 1927. So from 27 to now, 25, I say 2 more years. So in 1927, they were making maple syrup here because he was the VOAG teacher. I think I told you that. He was the VOAG teacher for the Gilbert School, and this was the VOAG farm because obviously they had nothing in downtown Winsted.
Yeah.
So this was the farm. This is where they had a couple of dairy cows. They had sheep. They raised chickens. They raised a big vegetable garden in the springtime, and they made maple syrup, at the end of the winter. So that he started working at the Gilbert School in 1927. So.
Wow.
Hard to believe, 100 years.
So at the 100-year mark, you could switch to the reverse osmosis system, right?
I don't know why.
I thought I might get it right.
When you got here, you tell me why. Everybody said you make a preheater. I said, yeah, the preheater's right here. You know that the cup where the float is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the side of the tray, the pan.
Yeah, well, when Hal gets that fire going, I'm going to ask you to stick your finger in that cup.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Why not?
Because it's freaking hot.
Well, why would I need a preheater?
I didn't tell you needed a preheater.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Oh.
This is why do I need a preheater?
Yeah.
Well, you can heat up the sap before it gets in the pan. Well, when it's in the cup on the outside of the pan, you can't stick your finger in there.
Yeah.
So, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for the info.
Okay, so I will keep you posted, whether you're in the state of New York, or the city of New York, whatever you want to call it, or in Connecticut, when we're going to drill holes.
No, this will be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, that's good. Okay, well, we'll just pray for the weather and hope for the best.
All right. I'll see. I'm not up this weekend, but I'll be up the weekend after.
Okay, good, Eric. I'll talk to you.
See ya.
Thank you. Thank you.
Garden Fork Radio is produced by Garden Fork Media LLC in Brooklyn, New York. The music in the show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.